Republican pieties about mere reforms, which at this point is just code word for more compromise with Democrats, so they keep getting their way, and Republicans get to have handy crises to milk their base for donor dollars from. But it's time to break this cycle, especially when you see what the Biden administration and the ATF may have in store for us next. Joining us now to discuss is John Crump, a special projects coordinator for Gun Owners of America and columnist for Ammo Land. John, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you, Kara. Thank you for having me again.
Great. So you write, Biden plans to announce that he is directing the ATF to close what every town calls the private sales loophole and the digital loophole. The private sales loophole, you note, is when an individual sells a firearm for profit but does not possess a federal firearm license. So can you explain some of this for us?
Yes, what the new rule is going to say, and they are basing this on the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, is that if you make any profit on a firearm, you are required to obtain a federal firearms license. Under the old definition, it is to make a livelihood by selling firearms. And now they are changing it to making a profit by selling firearms. So this is an expansion, and this is backdoor universal background checks.
It is. So does this mean that, two friends who've known each other forever, who otherwise, cross all their T's and dot all their I's in terms of the law, now will be seen as gun sellers if one buddy's like, hey man, I'll take that off your hand for $500 or whatever, and there's a quote unquote profit attached to it. Is that what the ATF is going after? And then does that make you think to yourself, what kind of increased surveillance power will the ATF need and request to be able to monitor and to track all that?
I think you hit it right on the nail, the head right on the nail there. We're not sure exactly what the rule is going to look like. It's still in draft form, but that is a scary possibility. And how do they know if you made a profit? Are they going to be looking at your bank records? We just don't know at this time.
And it definitely makes, like I said, a cause for concern. A lot of gun enthusiasts out there. I mean, that's how a lot of guys are with their friends. And so it's not an issue. These aren't the types of people who are going out there and committing crime. We all know the criminals who are committing crime. And whenever they have gun charges brought against them, Soros-backed prosecutors and the rest that's one of the first charges that they drop. So, my rear end that it's all about, going after a gun crime and keeping everyone safe. It's never been about that. It's making sure patriots, law-abiding, gun-owning Americans, average Americans, that we are not armed, but criminals and the rest of the left like that to make sure that they are armed. And so more and more we see this going on. And so with this, you said the bipartisan, what was the gun law that passed last year with Senator John Cornyn, was he warned about this ahead of time, some of the ramifications that changes in the law could make? And did he just blow them off?
GOA did call out this. Gun Owners of America did call this out and said this is a real threat and they will abuse this. Their concerns were brushed aside by people like John Cornyn and others that voted for the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which was a shame because they were warned not only by GOA, but in articles as well. There had to be a reason why they wanted the language changed. And according to Cornyn and them, it was no big deal. But as we're seeing now, it is a big deal because we all know that guns don't usually lose the value. They either keep the value or they go up in value.
And that's how they're going to ensnare all of us, it seems like, unfortunately. And in your article, you talk about how there are some, companies out there that help to network and, bring in, to introduce, I guess I should say is the word I was looking for, sellers and buyers when it comes to guns. I think groups like Arms List. Can you speak to them for a moment? Because I think that YouTube is taking them down specifically over this, the buying and selling, again, legally of guns.
Yeah, YouTube did take them down. I've been talking to Arms List and I've been talking to YouTube about what is going on. YouTube is claiming that they took them down because they said you can advertise on Arms List and that their watermark had the Arms List address in it. So they're claiming that that was facilitating gun sales.
And again, I know it feels like I just keep belaboring this point, but I mean, you go on YouTube right now and you can watch all sorts of videos about, especially young guys who are rappers in certain areas. And what do they always talk about? Killing and shooting and pop with their guns and their fake guns, and they use their hands to pretend to be guns. And some of them, like that one rapper, Melly or whatever, who's now is on trial for murder, at least in connection with murder. And he has a whole song out there about how he shot this guy and he didn't mean to at first, but he popped two more bullets in him and the guy died in his arms crying, I don't want to die. That all gets left up on YouTube. And again, I know it's so annoying to keep belaboring this point, double standards, hypocrisy, but I mean, it really is insane at this point. The types of people who use arms list and others, these 2A patriots, these are not the people committing crime. The rapper types and the rest, and their stuff gets left up on YouTube, they are the ones actually committing crime. Their followers are the ones committing crime. And once again, the ATF only seems to be looking one way. And again, that's the politics for you. And since you are so heavily involved in a lot of these, moving pieces and different cases going forward, one thing that you brought to my attention is that there is a court order, it seems, or at least there is one that potentially maybe to gag you. I was wondering if you could speak to some of that as well.
Yes, the U.S. Attorney Laura Crawford Taylor has filed a motion in the Middle District of Florida to gag me for talking about the auto keycard case. I put a video up on YouTube and on John Crump News on YouTube, and she didn't like the comments. So it seems like she's trying to gag me because she doesn't like the fourth party comments. I hired a few attorneys, and GOA decided to step in and cover the cost of those attorneys for me, including Steven Stambolia, Rob Olson, and others. And they will be down in Florida on Friday arguing for free speech. Because what this is, it's a stifling effect on journalism. I'm a journalist, and she's trying to shut up the press, and she's trying to infringe on my First Amendment right. Now, she's already trying to infringe on people's Second Amendment rights, but now she's going after my First Amendment rights. And also, there's a guy named Richard Hughes, Flying Rich on YouTube, who she's also going after because he co-hosts a podcast with me, which is absolutely ridiculous.
It is, and once again with the auto key card cases we've covered at great length, a novelty item, a keychain piece, and that's what the courts, the ATF and the rest are going after so heavily as we've talked about, and maybe that's why the judge doesn't like you talk about it, because it looks kind of embarrassing for them. Once again, with all the murder, mayhem, madness, maiming that we see in the streets, this is what our law enforcement, quote unquote, at least the federal ones, this is what they're going after. Novelty items that don't hurt anyone, that don't cause any kind of harm. That's what they're going to zero in on so they can tell their Democrat base, hey guys, we're going after guns and we're making the world safer. All the while, all those Democrats who live in Democrat-run areas, we're all getting a whole lot less safe, I guess, let's put it mildly there. But last question before I let you go tonight, a lot of gun news up in the headlines these days. The Supreme Court, and I have here, the Supreme Court is letting the final rule on frames and receivers stay. Can you explain some of those details for us?
Yeah, they are letting it stay. It was a 5-4 ruling with Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett crossing over and siding with progressives on the court. They are letting the rule stay in effect. They did not rule on the merits of the case, which is one thing I want to make extremely clear. But they sent it back to the Fifth Circuit. They also said that the government has to file for a writ of certiorari within a timely manner. And if that writ is denied, then the stay will automatically expire. So this isn't a defeat. This is just a delay. And what a lot of people are getting wrong is that the injunctions that are held by companies like Polymer 80, Defense Distributed, and 80% Arms, those are still in effect. So you can still buy a frame, jig, and everything else from Polymer 80, 80% Arms, or Defense Distributed because they have a separate injunction against that. So this is just a delay. It is not really a defeat, and a lot of people are getting that wrong.
It is a disappointing delay, though, for Amy Coney Barrett. And I mean, John Roberts, we know he goes left a lot on a lot of issues. He's kind of spineless. But, Amy Coney Barrett and the rest, when you find yourself siding with Kagan, KGB, all the rest of those, maybe it's time to think, wait a second, maybe I'm on the wrong side here. But, John, always a pleasure. Thanks for keeping us updated, and thanks for joining us tonight.
All right, thank you, Kara. Thank you for having me on again.
And coming up next, Massachusetts is banning a Catholic